سيبدأ البرنامج. احتراما لزملائكم يرجى إغلاق أجهزة الخلوي حتى نهاية الجلسة. تفضلوا بالجلوس وشكرا. سيبدأ البرنامج. احتراما لزملائكم يرجى إغلاق أجهزة الخلوي حتى نهاية الجلسة. تفضلوا بالجلوس وشكرا. We would now like to announce and acknowledge the attendance of His Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal.
طلع حبابنا طلوا هي طلع حبابنا طلوا طلع حبابنا طلوا هي طلع حبابنا طلوا هو طلوا حبابنا طلوا هي طلوا حبابنا طلع حبابنا طلوا هو
على أقصانا
نحن حكايات منا نغمات نحن حكايات هي موال
لما النسمات نحلالو بين الغلالو بينادي لما النسمات نحلالو بين الغلالو بينادي هو إشبالنا ضل المشي حديد بين مروان والغصب صار الولد حديد بالأطيار عالعيد
نحن من بعيد عن حب جديد نحن من بعيد نحكيله
عصبر الغيد نرمينا ونخمر العيد ويسقينا عصبر الغيد.
سيبدأ البرنامج. احتراما لزملائكم يرجى إغلاق أجهزة الخلوي حتى سيبدأ البرنامج. احتراما لزملائكم يرجى إغلاق أجهزة الخلوي حتى نهاية الجلسة. تفضلوا بالجلوس وشكرا. We would now like to announce and acknowledge the attendance of His Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal.
جميع الكوع
شرقوا قش غبرت رش ترجع ستي بلا كلسات رزق الله العربيات عاقيام العربيات من بيت جدي لبيت ستي يبقوا يضلوا 3 ساعات لم راحوا رحلة بأيلول والدنيا شتت على طول ستي صار فستانه يصفي ونسلوا شوارب جد نزول شرد الخيل فاك الليل ما رجعوا غير صبحيات رزق الله العربيات عاقيام العربيات من بيت جدي لبيت ستي يبقوا يضلوا 3 ساعات رزق الله العربيات عاقيام العربيات من بيت جدي لبيت ستي يبقوا يضلوا 3 ساعات.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Dozan wa Autar Choir from Amman, Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderators, author, humanitarian, founder of Women for Women International and host of the Nida Show, Zainab Selby, and journalist BBC News UK, Tim Wilcox.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a fantastic choir, wasn't it? This, the closing ceremony of the World Science Forum. Mahaba.
Not marhaba, Tim. It's marhaba, not marhaba.
So, like the Spanish, bienvenidos a Jordania.
Just stick to salamu alaikum.
Salam alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. It's peace be upon you. And boy, do we need peace these days. I mean, in a time of conflicts, division, instability, fear, blame, we do need peace.
But how is science helping that? I mean, I look around this region, you and I travel around this region, I don't see any signs of optimism at all.
No, Tim, there's our humanity that connects us to building peace in the world.
Cheap words. Where's the evidence? Look where we are at the moment.
Come on, there's art and culture that can help us build peace in the world. And beauty pageants.
And beauty pageants, true.
And beauty pageants.
Exactly. And what I've found over the last couple of days here, science. There have been some fantastic panel discussions about the role of science, the role of technology, the role of youth in science. And what is really interesting is how it is changing and galvanizing not only this region, but obviously conflicts right around the world.
Absolutely, indeed. I mean, just think about this gathering in Jordan, where more than 100 people, attendees in this conference, discussing not only science, but science and how do we help rebuild peace, and science and reconstruction, and science and agriculture, and science and technology and art. There is hope. Yeah,
I mean, you told me the most wonderful story a few hours ago about a woman living here. Just remind me.
Rafia. So there is Rafia, a Jordanian woman, a Bedouin woman, a few miles away from here. She lives in a community with no electricity, and she's an illiterate woman. No one would think she could do anything, but someone taught her how to put a solar panel together. An illiterate woman, red wire, blue wire, white wire, and she put a solar panel together, bringing light to her community. This is not a joke. This is a real story. And she lit her whole community.
But no yellow wire.
No yellow wire. But the point is that she could. Science can help us address a lot of things. Science and technology can help us address a lot of things and brings us together in a polarized world. Because science, by definition, uses the polarization to bring us together.
Yeah, and what has struck me is how many young people now are at the forefront of this, and how change needs to be taking place right around the world to let young people actually explore science and technology and bring about the changes, the things that are really needed for countries to get over conflicts, and those vacuums, of course, are filled by other people. I just want to say also that, you know, what has been so interesting is Prince Hassan who set up the Royal Scientific Society back in, 1970. When you think about the troubles of that era and what we're facing now, and yet now we have two concrete things which are going to be signed this afternoon.
Absolutely. Another testimony that peace is possible. And I learned over years of working in conflicts, in times of crisis, there are opportunities, and today are the opportunities. So we are witnessing the signing of two agreements. One of them is the first of its kind agreement, PRIMA, fostering joint research and innovation among 19 Euro-Mediterranean countries to talk about water, energy, food challenges, and to talk about how to drive adaptive solutions to improve efficiency of sustainability of food production and water provision in a very resource-challenged country.
There's a lot of dense language in that, but actually the translation, the rolling out of that will be hugely impressive. I've got a bit more dense language for you as well.
All right, go ahead.
We got one other thing to be signed, which is the US-Jordan Science and Technology Agreement. The facts are, it was inaugurated in July 2008, renewed after 10 years here, a collaborative effort launched to address, including water management, environmental protection, renewable energy, public health, and agricultural development. Bear with me. Areas of critical importance, not just to Jordan, but to the entire global community. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the important thing, the benefit to the entire global community. Jordan playing its part as the gateway to world science. And I think we should let those signing ceremonies carry on before we come back and you threaten to sing.
Play some trumpets. Yes, okay. Until later.
Please welcome our speakers, Secretary General of Higher Council for Science and Technology, Jordan, His Excellency Khaled Shreider. Director for International Cooperation, Directorate General for Research and Innovation, European Commission, Maria Cristina Russo. Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to represent Estonian Presidency of the Council of the European Union, Margus Rava.
Your Royal Highness, Prince Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness, Princess Sumaya bint Al Hassan, Commissioner Moedas, Director Russo, Dr. Khaled, ladies and gentlemen, participants of the forum. I want to start by thanking the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan for hosting the forum as well as this ceremony. As it is always the case in Jordan, the hospitality has been excellent, and the venue, the premises, and the surroundings have been outstanding. It is a special pleasure and honor for me to be here today on the occasion of the signature of this important agreement for scientific and technological cooperation between the European Union and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, regarding the participation of Jordan in the Partnership for Research and Innovation in the Mediterranean Area, also known as PRIMA. This agreement is a unique opportunity for the European Union and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan to join forces to seize the opportunities offered by PRIMA of carrying out joint research and innovation activities, and to tackle the challenges of making the water and food supply more efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable. The relationship between the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan and the European Union is highly valued by us. This agreement adds considerable strength to our future relations and is a very important step for the advancement of PRIMA. Negotiations have been held in good cooperative spirit and in the constructive manner that characterizes our relations. I wish to thank warmly negotiators on both sides for this very satisfactory outcome. Thank you.
Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be here today to sign the EU-Jordan International Agreement on Jordan's participation in PRIMA, the Partnership for Research and Innovation in the Mediterranean area, which focuses on water resources for food production. Today, we are reaping the benefits of our joint efforts, started more than 5 years ago, which led to the creation of a unique partnership, gathering several countries from the two shores of the Mediterranean in order to work together on major global societal challenges. On the European Union side, Commissioner Carlos Moedas has always attributed the greatest importance to PRIMA. And as he said earlier on, he has deployed all his efforts to make it a reality, being it a building block of his openness to the world policy. Jordan has shown strong and continued support to PRIMA from the beginning. I was particularly happy to conduct and conclude the international negotiations with Dr. Khaled El-Shreid, thanks to his personal engagement and to the very, very special support and personal engagement of the Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint Hassan. We are here today to sign this PRIMA agreement. It is not only a very important achievement in terms of scientific cooperation and for enhanced EU-Jordan relations, but it is also a milestone for science diplomacy, and there would be no better place to sign it than this World Science Forum for Science for Peace in Jordan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint Al-Hassan, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Over the last years, growing awareness of the challenges related to agri-food systems and water resources in the Mediterranean area has induced EU states and southern and eastern Mediterranean countries to work together on several common research initiatives. These initiatives have achieved important results, allowing the creation of strong networks of excellent scientists from both shores of the Mediterranean with a diverse background and reinforcing mutual trust among participating countries. Now, after 10 years of partnership on research and innovation in the Mediterranean area, PRIMA has been initiated with the main objective to create new research and innovation approaches to improve water availability and sustainable agricultural production in a region heavily distressed by climate change, urbanization, and population growth. This partnership is based on 3 principles, namely co-funding, co-decision, and co-ownership. Currently, there are, as was said before, 19 countries participating in this PRIMA bi-regional program, 11 EU member states, and 8 Mediterranean partner countries. And it's expected that more participants from both sides will follow as the initiative grows over time. This partnership will be financed through a combination of funding, 274 million euros from participating countries, matched by 220 million euros from the EU through Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Funding Program 2014-2020. Jordan with Italy spearheaded the initiative since its inception in 2012 and co-chaired Prima General Assembly, and Jordan has always shown full commitment to it and will continue to support and actively participate in its activities. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now sign Prima, an agreement among 19 Euro-Mediterranean countries to foster joint research and innovation, addressing challenges across the food, energy, water nexus. Inviting, in order to witness the agreement, Chairman Higher Council for Science and Technology, His Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, and European Commissioner for Science, Research and Innovation, Carlos Moedas. Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner Carlos Moedas for remarks.
His Royal Highness Prince Hassan, Royal Highness Princess Sumaya, what an extraordinary moment. Sometimes we look at these signatures and they have behind years and years of work. 19 countries, 500 million euros for one common goal. Prima for me, is understanding that we cannot do it alone. Prima, for me, is understanding the concept of sovereignty, is understanding that sovereignty has changed. In the 1500s, Jean Bodin used to say that sovereignty was the right of collect taxes, the right to print money, and the right to declare war. Today, sovereignty is not anymore about it. Sovereignty today is not about a right, it's about an obligation. Can I provide education? Can I provide health to my people? So sovereignty is an obligation to the people. And the only way to do it is not through physical borders. It's about connectivity. Napoleon used to say that geography is destiny, not anymore. Today, connectivity is destiny. Connectivity, more than sovereignty, is the new way that people and the human species organize themselves. So Prima, for me, is exactly that. It's not just about research. It's not just about science. It's about connecting people. It's about connecting us. So I want to thank you for making it happen, because it took a long time. It was my first job at a commission, convincing my colleagues, convincing my services, convincing the parliament, convincing the countries that this was all about connecting people in the Mediterranean. So thank you for making it happen here in front of us, because you allow us to go from words to actions, which is the most difficult thing in politics. It's to go from words to actions, from borders to connections, and hopefully from conflict to peace. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now sign the US-Jordan Science and Technology Agreement. Agreement signed in 2008 to collaborate on innovative research and commercialization of solutions that address water management, environmental protection, renewable energy, agricultural development, and public health challenges in Jordan. Inviting to the stage in order to witness this agreement, Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, Jordan, His Excellency Imad Fakhouri, and Acting Deputy of Chief of Commission, U.S. Embassy Amman, Jim Barnhart.
Your Royal Highness, Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness, Princess Sumaya bint Al-Hassan, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure and honor to be here with you, for there is no better practical outcome to build on the World Science Forum and the adoption of its declaration for the 8th biannual World Science Forum 2017 Jordan, than just to witness the signing of the Jordan-EU Prima Agreement, and to also be with you on the occasion of signing the protocol extending and developing the new agreement between the government of the United States of America and the government of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan on science and technological cooperation. On this occasion, allow me to reiterate the importance that Jordan attaches to its bilateral relations with the United States on all fronts. And I would also like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation for the continuous support and assistance extended by the United States to Jordan over the years, which is a reflection of the strong and strategic partnership between our two countries at all levels and fronts. The United States has always been a forerunner and leading by example, and Jordan will count on the US continued support as we move forward in implementing our development and reform plans, including on collaborating in science and technology to transform our nations and our region. Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, the agreement that we will shortly be signing will further strengthen scientific and technological capabilities of both parties, broaden and expand relations between the scientific and technological communities of both countries and within the Middle East region, and will promote scientific and technological cooperation and research in areas of mutual benefit for peaceful purposes. It will also strengthen the establishment of science-based public-private partnerships and economic cooperation through specific and advanced technology applications, as well as establish dynamic and effective international cooperation between scientific organizations and individual scientists in the two countries and other countries in the Middle East. It is worth mentioning that this agreement will provide support to an important pillar of the Jordan 2025 and our National Integrated Development Plan, as well as the Jordan Economic Growth Plan for 2018 to 2022. Signing this agreement highlights the role of science in building and fostering a culture of peace at all levels of society, and the potential of science to create mechanisms that promise peaceful opportunity. Science is the key in addressing the many challenges facing the world today and the Middle Eastern region specifically, including climate change, water, energy, and food security. And also, it is going to be a critical component in our ability to achieve inclusive, sustainable development and the Sustainable Development Goals and the Agenda 2030. Additionally, Jordan plays a pivotal role in promoting and advancing sciences in various aspects. Here, I would like to shed the light on 3 critical initiatives to be undertaken by our Higher Council for Science and Technology, which can benefit from the Science and Technology Cooperation Agreement with the United States. The first is the Jordanian Scientists and Technologists Abroad JOSTA network that aims at reversing the brain drain of Jordanian scientists and technologists by connecting them with their counterparts in Jordan to perform joint research and development activities and establish joint business ventures. This is in order to ensure effective transfer of knowledge and technology. Second, the King Abdullah II Center for Nanotechnology, whose vision is to reach advanced level in the field of nanotechnology and its applications and manufacturing of its products to support the national economy and increase its productivity and competitiveness. Thirdly, the National Center for Innovation that aims at stimulating innovative activities in the public and private sector to increase productivity and cultivate a globally competitive environment with far-reaching macro and micro benefits. Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to thank the government and the people of the United States for the unwavering support provided to Jordan. We continue to count on the US support as a key and strategic partner to Jordan in the future to realize our development objectives as we move forward with the implementation of our Jordan 2025 and the National Integrated Development Plan. We also look forward to further enhancing and boosting our relationships at all levels. This agreement will be a critical pillar to support innovation, entrepreneurship, and the overall sustainable development and the empowerment of youth and women. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint Al-Hassan, Your Royal Highness Princess Rita et Talal, Your Excellencies, friends, ladies and gentlemen, before I start my comments, I do want to congratulate the organizers and to Jordan for hosting such an incredibly ambitiously successful World Science Forum. This is really something, so thank you very much. I also want to thank His Excellency the Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, Imad Fakhoury, for his leadership over the last few years in helping to guide the donor community as we work to partner with Jordan through this very important period of its history. The Prime Minister, Minister Fahouri, Minister Shweke, who also is here, have played a very important role. And thank you, Vice. So science has long been a foundation of the relationship between the United States and Jordan. And why is that? It's simply because the quality of Jordan scientists are stellar, and the closeness of our cooperation is superb. In just a few moments, we'll sign a 10-year renewal of the U.S.-Jordan Agreement on Science and Technological Cooperation, enabling and encouraging our science agencies to cooperate more closely than ever before. International cooperation enables our scientists to do their best work. According to a recent UN report, 2/3 of articles produced by scientists in the Arab world between 2008 and 2014 were co-authored with international partners. The United States was Jordan's closest collaborator by a wide margin, publishing more than 1,000 co-authored articles during that period. So I think it's entirely appropriate that we are renewing our cooperation here at the World Science Forum. As we discussed this week, and as our astronauts noted from orbit on Tuesday, the challenges facing the world and facing Jordan specifically are formidable. But science knows no borders, and when pursued aggressively, can be a great force for peace. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now sign the document.
Hello, everyone. As a daughter of this region, I can tell you that Arabs are very proud people. We are very proud of all our contributions in history. I know if you're not an Arab, you may not know that actually anymore, given that our region is creating a lot of troubles these days. But truly, we are very proud people, and we have many, many figures who have contributed so many ways in histories. Today, we are not contributing that distant past. We are celebrating the recent past, actually, with honoring Dr. Osama al-Khalidi. He is one of the pioneer men in the region who make us all Arabs very, very, very proud. This is a very emotional tribute, actually. He was a biochemist, a biochemist who was a beacon of hope in the region, a teacher, a poet, an artist, a historian, an astronomer, a craftsman. He was a true Renaissance person in this part of the world.
And a poet. I'm a Brit, and actually we are causing quite a lot of trouble in the world at the moment as well, with Brexit and a few other things. It's interesting that this award is a Newton Khalifi award named after Sir Isaac Newton, one of the presidents of the Royal Society, another example of the collaboration internationally in science.
And for more information about the award and our upcoming ceremonies, may I introduce you to His Excellency Dr. Edward Ogden, British Ambassador to the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan.
Your Royal Highness Prince Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint Hassan, Your Royal Highness Princess Khida Al Talal, Ma'alaikum, distinguished guests. Actually, I'm just going to pause here a moment and, as it were, take upon myself the task of explaining to those non-Jordanians amongst you why we do some of these ceremonies. And could I just say, you know, many of us, I'm sure, in this room attend many events which are under the patronage of this person or that person. Quite often one's lucky if this person or that person, you know, even turns up to the event, yet alone does any work for it. If I could say in the presence of the three Royal Highnesses here, I mean, they not only just turn up, as we sort of have heard throughout this conference. I mean, they really have worked, if I may say, throughout their lives for science and for the many, many other causes they patronize. So many thanks. Now, as we just heard, this is not a signing, you'll be relieved to hear. It's a bit shorter. It is a celebration. Why a celebration and why Newton Khalidi? Why, let's go first, why Newton? This is essentially a scheme to foster stronger links between the UK and Jordan in science and innovation. So Newton, this is named after one of our most famous scientists, as Tim just said, Sir Isaac Newton, who formulated the theory of gravity in the late 17th century. We launched the fund in 2014. It's worth about £750 million globally. It extends to 18 countries now, including Jordan. It looks at people, at research, and at translation. And what we're trying to do is to promote an economic and social development program that joins people up, joins countries up through science and innovation. Now, since Sir Isaac Newton couldn't be with us today, having died 250 years ago, we thought we would concentrate on the Jordanian end of the partnership, and namely the Khalidi end. Now, why is it that the scheme bears Dr. Osama al-Khalidi's name? It is because, as we just heard, he bears an extraordinary position in this country as one of its leading scientists. Sadly, he died a few years ago, but had he been with us, he would definitely have been one of those 14 leading Jordanians whom we saw on the first morning receive one of the prizes for their outstanding contribution. He was a teacher. He taught generations of scientists and medical students across the Arab world, be that in Jordan or in Beirut. And so when we asked the Royal Scientific Society and the Jordanian government who they would choose to bear the Jordanian end of this partnership, Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya came back to us out of a lot of thought, and thank you, Your Royal Highness, for all the effort you've put into launching this partnership, with Dr. Khalidi's name.
And he was somebody who brought together, again, what we try to do, make the sort of theme of this partnership, bringing together science, but also the humanities, so that they can mutually reinforce each other. And we're particularly honoured to have with us this evening Dr. Khalid's widow, Samia, and, his daughters, Ramla and Muna, and granddaughters, Suha and Thraya. So it was very nice to see you all. Thank you so much for coming. Now, the fund will focus on energy, water management, agri-tech and food security, nanotechnology, and cultural heritage. And essentially what it does is bring matched funding, but matched effort, if you like, on both sides. And we signed the agreement in August, and between August and now have taken forward the individual areas of cooperation under those areas, such that today the British Academy, the Royal Academy of Engineering, the Arts and Humanities Research Council, the Science and Technology Facilities Council, the British Council, and the Council for British Research in the Levant, all of them are developing counterpart programs with their Jordanian partners. And it is just worth underlining here, this is not about development, this is about partnerships of scientific equals. So we're really delighted how fast it is progressing. And we look forward to tremendous collaboration between the two sides going forward. Now, if the stage management is right, there will be something that I can present to Mrs. Samia Khalidi. But if it isn't right, I will present it to her afterwards. What I would have done, you can imagine me, this is an artificial e-presentation. They're coming, I know they're coming, I can feel them coming. Can you imagine a virtual presentation of flowers to Mrs. Khalidi, which we will do for real afterwards. I said they delivered. Thank you very much indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Royal Highness Prince Al Hassan will now make remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I was at university in the United Kingdom, we had two forms of professor, the distinguished professor and the extinguished professor. The distinguished professor, rather like my dear departed friend Osama, would talk and talk, and you would not want him to stop talking. The extinguished professor, I don't have to illustrate. But Osama and I came together in the period after the '67 war. Actually, I've known the Khalidi family for most of my life, I suppose, one way or another. But the spirit that brought us together with Osama Khalidi, Antoine Zahlan, and many of the founding figures of the development drive in Jordan, and in particular the science development drive, was the expressed desire to do the right thing because it was the right thing to do. Imagine war of attrition, continuous explosions, fighting may be commonplace today, sadly, in many parts of the Arab world, but at that time, after the loss of the West Bank and the high emotions that existed, it was unbelievable to drive one's mind and one's feelings towards constructive addressing of how to brush ourselves down and address the challenges that we were facing. I remember spending hours upon hours. Time was not a question. We would stay until the early hours of the morning and then continue to have a breakfast and work round the clock. Nothing was too small for Osama to attend to, and his contribution was not only within his outstanding field of biochemistry, which I, as a layman, have absolutely no clue about, but also in the field of provoking us to think, not least of all, in the finest classical Arabic. I remember Kamal Salibi, our dear departed friend, the founder of the Royal Institute for Interfaith Study, and Osama and I welcomed the presence of interns among us because that meant that we could start the working day with a constructive breakfast with young men and women who wanted to go somewhere, to make it happen. And when the moment came for the MENA Summit Conference, I remember in 1995, or years before that, the 3-year development plan in 1973, the fact that we had a quorum of 500 Jordanians across the board working to develop a harmonious development plan and to raise $600 million, dinars, forgive me, in those years, was quite an achievement. I recall one of the premier international conference organizers plastering the walls of a conference hall with their posters. And I asked, and this was the MENA Summit Conference, what have they done for the conference? And the Jordanian said, well, they haven't done anything. And I said, well, please take down those posters. That's maybe not the way to win friends and influence people, but we did not want a glossy magazine from a company specialized in construction services or developmental waffle to come and do it for us. And Osama Khaldi represented integrity and authenticity and eccentricity. And that was the basis of our friendship, the ability to laugh at ourselves. I've never seen him so well dressed as in those pictures we just saw. In fact, most of his time he was wearing trousers that became baggier and baggier as he became thinner and thinner, held up with rather disreputable, I don't know what you call them in English, braces we used to call them, until I found out that the Americans put braces in their teeth, or is it the other way around? Suspenders? I don't know. Anyway, Gairo Girlus, Osama al-Khalidi, will always be in my heart and my mind. And a tribute to him was that when the ladies of Iraq al-Amir, who had turned olive leaves into papyrus, were invited by a company to give them the formula, the copyright. And they told me this in Amman Design Week just a few days ago. They said, no, we owe it to Osama al-Khaldi, who is buried under those olive trees in Iraq al-Amir. So Osama, we love you, we love your family, and I am humbled and privileged to be thanking you for being Osama al-Khaldi to all of us.
Thank you for this opportunity to address you at the opening of the World Science Forum here in the heart of the Middle East.
Welcome to Jordan.
We gather here this week to address the critical needs of our world.
I think we are all agreed that all of us, all 3,000 of us, are not important. It is humanity that is important.
I mean, this forum has been incredible, so such an inspiration.
An amazing opportunity to rub shoulders with the top researchers around the world.
It's a good environment, good seminars.
This forum, a big success story.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director General of Science Foundation Ireland, Chief Scientific Advisor to the Government of Ireland, Mark Ferguson.
Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for the honour of closing and making some closing remarks at this ceremony. And I want to pick up where I left off in my opening remarks in the ceremony. So what I would like to do is to illustrate a couple of things. So first of all, I told you that the three things that plagued the ancient world were famine, plague, and war. And then in all of those things, through science, we have made remarkable progress, such that plague, for example, is no longer incomprehensible and uncontrollable. In fact, the normal response to plagues nowadays is that somebody did something wrong, like the WHO or the UN or the Western world or whatever, so that we didn't deal with it quickly enough. And I want to illustrate the remarkable progress in one example, which is from the Ebola crisis. So if I can have the next slide, please. Thank you. So Ebola, as you know, the outbreak occurred in 2014 in West Africa. And in that same year, 3 vaccines that had not been in development entered clinical trial. And just some 3 years later, in 2017, this year, it was shown that there had been at least 1 year's protection in terms of antibody response to a developed Ebola vaccine. So yes, the Ebola crisis was a serious crisis. Yes, some 11,000 people died. That's not millions as it would have been in the ancient world, but still a tragedy. Yes, the vaccine was not there to deal with that particular crisis. That was good public health measures. But nonetheless, there was very rapid vaccine development. And if you ask the question, what is common in that vaccine development, it's the following things. The first thing is that the initial discovery was made in a public science system. A university, the National Institute of Health, a public research laboratory in Canada. That discovery was then acquired and further developed by a biotechnology company, and in turn, that was acquired and developed by a pharmaceutical company. There was massive international collaboration, and there was multiple funding from different governments, funding sources, companies, public bodies, and charities. There was altruistic phase 1 human testing. All 3 Ebola vaccines by these 3 companies were tested in the West on white people, predominantly white men. They do have some use, in Oxford, in Paris, and in Washington. And that was altruistic volunteers. Those people were very unlikely, less than 1% chance of getting Ebola, and definitely less than 1% chance of having any benefit from a vaccine. And there was very effective and trustworthy deployment in Africa. And I'll illustrate that through just one of the vaccines, which was that developed by the company Janssen, the Johnson & Johnson company. So the initial research was done at the National Institute of Health in collaboration with Bavarian Nordic, which was a biotechnology company from Denmark. So we have European-American collaboration in the initial discovery. It was acquired by Janssen, who combined it with technology, their ADVAC technology, which they in turn had acquired from Crucell, which is a Dutch company. They then took that into very rapid development with a lot of collaborators, as you can see here, the London School of London School of Tropical Medicine, I beg your pardon, University of Oxford, collaborators in France and so on, and at the National Institute of Health. You will also see that there was considerable funding. The Commissioner referred to it earlier, funding from the European Union, from pharmaceutical companies, from the United States, various agencies, including the NIH, and from the company itself. And it then went into clinical trial, as I say, in Europe, in America, and in Africa. And there was deployment from NGOs, it happened to be an Irish NGO, World Vision, to modulate the population in Africa. Because if you introduce a new vaccine, you get all kinds of rumors, like it's a capitalist plot, it's a communist plot, it makes you speak Irish, whatever thing you want to make up. But none of these things can be overcome through trusted NGOs, in this case World Vision, in terms of deploying the vaccine. So this is quite remarkable. This is absolutely remarkable, and the pattern is true for all 3 vaccines. It's the extraordinary effect, the fastest time ever to develop a vaccine, of multiple international groups working together to get it into the clinic in super fast time. And that shows you it can be done. It can be done when people work together, European Union, Africa, America, whatever. So that's the first example I wanted to give. The second example I wanted to say is, what is the most important lesson from science, and more importantly, thinking like a science, that you can deliver to society and peace? And here are just a few thoughts. So, scientific lessons to organize society. First of all, be humble. Even the smartest of us, the most widely read, we actually know very little. Secondly, there are no absolutes. All science is contingent. Absolutes don't exist. The importance of diversity, the very basis of biology and evolutionary selection. Be open and sharing. The supremacy of consistent and coherent evidence. Those two words, consistent and coherent, are very important. Data-rich, opinion-poor is a pretty good way to go, as is a critical and skeptical approach. And very much the importance of communication and discussion in meetings like this. That's how you solve problems. That may mean on the political scene you have to do things that are actually sometimes unacceptable to people, like talking to terrorists. We had to do that in Ireland to solve the problem. People had to talk to the terrorists to make it stop and to have them do other things democratically. The scientific method is a good way to go, and the transcendency of science. Science is different for history. You know, when Newton's laws were formulated and then Einstein proposed the theory of relativity, it didn't mean that Newton was wrong. It just meant that Einstein's laws went beyond Newton's laws, and they transcended them, and they were able to explain more things. And that's a very interesting perspective on history. But you know all of this stuff. This is nothing new. So in preparing for this talk, I tried to think of something different, something that would be relevant to this region of the world and that perhaps you had not thought about. And I said different, I didn't say new. And the reason I didn't say new is that I got inspiration from this from a series of 6 lectures which Robert Oppenheimer delivered in 1953. In case you're wondering, I wasn't there. I read about them on the BBC website. They're available as the Reith Lectures, entitled Science and the Common Understanding. These lectures are not well known. They got terrible reviews. They were said to be boring and uninteresting, largely because the British public expected Oppenheimer to talk about the bomb and the Manhattan Project, and he did not. And secondly, because the lectures are very dense, they're very rich, and they're very deep. So my task in 2 minutes is to summarize 6 one-hour lectures that everybody thought was boring from Oppenheimer. And what Oppenheimer did was he took the concept of complementarity or duality. He said, in order to explain an electron, or I'm going to adapt this for Jordan, a photon, such as in your Sesame project, then you have to think about it both as a particle and as a wave. Sometimes it behaves like a particle, like a ping-pong ball, and sometimes it behaves like a wave. It's neither a particle nor a wave. It's both of these. These are complementary. And Oppenheimer developed this concept of complementarity as a way of understanding and organizing the natural world. And so we took examples from everyday life. Individual freedom versus collective responsibility. Things like being open versus being restricted in your information. Cognitive versus being emotional. And you can read the list that's in front of you. As a scientist, both the scientific discovery being an end in itself and as an instrument of subsequent change. And Oppenheimer argued that these were both necessary. These opposite views were necessary to both organize and think about society. And here's a quote from his lecture. We have no written rules that assign us to these ways, but we know that only folly and death of the spirit result when we deny one or the other, when we erect one as total and absolute and make the other derivative and secondary. So this was the thesis of Oppenheimer's view. And he said, to properly understand and organize the natural world, it's both necessary and appropriate to hold in your mind at the same time opposite and mutually exclusive ideas to get it right, just as in electrons, or as I have just said, just in photons. And I think that's a very, very interesting concept, and one that we can easily take into today's society. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, if we have it. Hello. I'll go on anyway. So what Oppenheimer was saying was that it was really important to be able to understand and to organize the natural world, that you would hold these opposite ideas in your head. And I think that Oppenheimer's views, His views on complementarity and duality are just as applicable in today's world as they were in Oppenheimer's world. If you think about it, you think about nationalism versus globalism as in Trump's America. You think about nationalism versus federalism as the UK leaves the EU. You think about religious divides that I talked about in my opening lecture, Jew versus Arab in this part of the world, or Protestant versus Catholic in my part of the world. In all of those situations where you see these potentially opposite views and you see people wanting to assert one as supreme over the other, I think it's really important to think about electrons, in Jordan to think about photons, and to think about Oppenheimer's view that in order to understand the natural world and to govern the natural world, it is both necessary and appropriate to be able to hold in your mind mutually opposite views in order to get it right. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences, UNESCO, Flavia Schlegel.
Your Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness Princess Arida Al-Talal, Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya, Carlos Moedas, Professor Laszlo Lovash, dear old friends, dear new friends, Salam Alaikum. We have woken up this morning to another beautiful day here at the Dead Sea, on this last day of the 2017 World Science Forum, on the World Science Day for Peace and Development. And what a journey this week has been, a feast for the mind and for the heart. Please let me quote His Majesty King Abdullah II Ibn al-Hussein, as he said in the opening. Jordan is proud to host the World Science Forum, an accelerator for global scientific collaboration, opportunity, and peace. And in response, I would like to say, Jordan, we are all proud to have been part of this journey, and we hope we proved ourselves worthy of your expectations. In this spirit, I would like to wish to express UNESCO's and all our gratitude to His Majesty King Abdullah II Ibn al-Hussein for his gracious patronage granted to this first ever World Science Forum in the Arab region. I would also like to seize the opportunity to thank His Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal for his visionary and steadfast championship for science in Jordan, in the world, to prevent conflict and fight violent extremism. Our most heartfelt thanks are extended to the people of Jordan for their generous and kind hospitality. We have been greatly impressed by all the young Jordanians and their compassion for science and peace, and it is an honor for UNESCO to welcome the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan as a new member to UNESCO's Executive Board. To our host, Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya, all our admiration and thanks for her dedication and stamina to make this World Science Forum such a success. And we are at UNESCO are extremely grateful that she has accepted to become a UNESCO Special Envoy for Science for Peace. Together with Laszlo Lovash, President of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, they have put together a program which is relevant to the region. They have ensured an outcome which will make a difference to set another mark in the history of the World Science Forum. Our gratitude, therefore, also to Professor Laszlo Lovash, whose contributions to this forum are comparable only to those he made to the field of mathematics. And indeed, And indeed, the Hungarian Academy of Sciences and the Hungarian government have been founding and very strong pillars in the World Science Forum's history since its beginnings. And we are all in debt to the members of the steering committee, to all our partners and organizations. The program cover promised humankind's most pressing conversations, and all the plenaries, the thematic and special sessions have covered topics of urgency for the Arab region and challenges for the world, and they delivered on this promise. Scientists, policymakers, artists engaged in debates ranging from inclusion, science, diplomacy, water management, to gender equality, or to debating the Arab Charter of Ethics for Human-Centered Science. In its declaration, the World Science Forum captures the spirit of this unforgettable and unique gathering, a spirit of cooperation, a commitment to overcome dissent and unilateralism. This closing day also marks World Science Day, dedicated this year to global understanding. Naledi Pandor, South African Minister for Science and Technology, warned against complacency, and she said, "No country, no region can afford isolation. Our problems are all our neighbors' problems." And the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement call for a global understanding that we and our children depend on shared resources. And in the declaration of this World Science Forum, the water, food, energy nexus is being highlighted as one of the most pressing issues in this region. This urgently calls for understanding that in this Arab region, the main source of fresh water is stored in underground aquifers, invisible, shared by mostly more than two countries. And science can locate these aquifers, science can make them visible, and science can provide knowledge how to manage them sustainably. It is probably more than just a coincidence of history that the first UNESCO office outside of Paris was opened in the Arab region exactly 70 years ago in Egypt. And it is certainly more than a coincidence that this first UNESCO office was fully dedicated and still is fully dedicated to science. To science for peace. What a noble task, what a challenge. But science for peace also calls for peace for science. Governments and decision makers are called upon to value science, to invest in science, to nurture a culture of science. We need teachers who have access to tools and training for teaching science in a fun way. We need parents who understand that girls too have brains and ambitions to pursue science and engineering. And what a better way to promote a culture of science than Jordan's Years of Science. We have celebrated the opening of Sesame on May 16, now declared an International Day of Light. We witnessed the 1001 Inventions exhibition and now the World Science Forum, celebrating the power of science as a driver for peace and sustainable development. A year of science to raise the profile of science in Jordan, or as Her Royal Highness Princess Samaya is quoted in Nature, a generation of analytical thinkers and risk takers is something I'd like to see. A critical thinker, a risk taker, this reminds me of you, Your Royal Highness. Critically thinking through all the big and small parts leading to this great feast of knowledge and cooperation, no doubt also taking risks to offer us this unique opportunity to gather here at the Dead Sea. You, Your Royal Highness, together with your very dedicated team, have given a new meaning to the World Science Forum. You have proved the power of vision and ideas in this region, the urgency to reflect and to act jointly, respectfully, but also smartly, elegantly, and joyfully. You have inspired this World Science Forum. You have inspired us all. Inspired in a free interpretation of UNESCO's founding charter, let us build peace in the minds of women and men through science. Thank you, Jordan. Shukran.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome European Commissioner for Science, Research and Innovation, the European Commission, Carlos Moedas.
It's me again. So, Your Royal Highness Prince Hassan bin Talal, Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint Hassan, and members of the royal family, ministers. What an honor to be here today representing the European Union. Since I took office, this is my third visit to Jordan. So if someone asks you if I'm biased towards Jordan, they're right. But let me tell you that by being here these days, I realize that there's no better place in the world to have a conference on science for peace. Let me tell you why. First, because you have the best science diplomacy project in the world. If I had to describe Sesame in one sentence, I would say that's the only place I've been in my life where scientists use the word science as often as they use the word peace. Second, you have proven in these 3 days to the world that even in the middle of the most difficult conflict in the world, you don't give up on science. What an example to the world, ladies and gentlemen. I will keep from this conference 2 words. Energy, the energy I saw this morning with the young people, with the scientists, and passion that was all over this conference. But third, I think that even if you have the best project of science diplomacy, even if you have this ability of being in the middle of conflict and doing it, you would not do it if you do not have the leaders. If you do not have leaders that inspire you beyond borders and that have always put science at the forefront. So first, let me thank personally to Princess Sumaya. I met her in 2015, and she inspired me immediately by her energy, by her passion. She inspired me as a politician into this world of science and politics. And she once said something that I wanted to share with all of you because I think it's very unique. She said, "Borders matter little in the innovative history of mankind. When great powers fall, which they inevitably do, it's ideas and knowledge that remain." This is exactly what a lot of people in great countries should be thinking, that the world comes and goes, but the knowledge, it's really the only thing we have. But then on that first visit in April 2015, I had probably one of the most interesting meetings of my political life. Prince Hassan invited me to have a meeting that I thought would be very formal. It was the first time I was meeting him. And so I decided to tell him a little bit about me, about my country, about my objectives. I talked about this idea I had about open innovation and open science. That was like the idea of someone like me, an engineer that became a politician. And that on that open science idea, I included the whole science diplomacy for Europe. And he was the one on that first meeting that gave me the hint that what I was talking about was much more than open science. I was talking about open data, talking about open publications to everybody. But what I was really talking about was openness to the world. And we talked about the history of my country, which he knew better than I do. And he said to me at some point in that conversation, you know, science is really a multiplier of peace. You cannot achieve peace without science, and you cannot do that without opening up to the world. So from that day on, our strategy became from just open innovation and open science to open innovation, open science, and openness to the world. So, Your Royal Highness, your influence goes beyond borders, and we thank you for that. You are a multiplier of peace. That's what you did all your life. That's what you do. So thank you so much for keeping us inspired. Thank you so much for this great conference. Thank you to all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for his keynote remarks His Royal Highness Prince Al Hassan bin Talal.
May I suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that we apply ourselves to an exercise of follow-up. When we have finished with the wonderful aftertaste of this great event, when we have expressed our gratitude sincerely and warmly to Sumaya and her wonderful team, you know, my wife and I are blessed with 3 daughters and a wonderful son, and I am told that if you bring 3 daughters up well, it is said that you have the key to paradise. All my life I have been hen-pecked and chick-pecked. And I'm very happy to feel that we feed on similar stuff, similar ideas, and we build on these ideas and compound them. But I would like to ask you all if our project of internalizing the process of conferences, I know that you move on to a bigger J, a more advanced J, to Japan next. But might I suggest, to my Japanese friends anyway, that Jordan and Japan sit next to each other in international conferences, so we're not so far away from each other. And it might be worth asking you, as you carry the baton of continuity, it is Japan next, is it not? Is it what? Next, okay. That we begin with the commonalities that we have identified in these meetings. We begin with modernity. With all due respect to Pepper, Pepper gives me a great thrill, and more than Pepper, the engineers who put him together, because they happen to be Jordanian. but I wouldn't like to summarize modernity in pepper. Rather, I would like to suggest that we take a good, hard look. That is, I am addressing all the co-organizers from UNESCO to TWAS and everyone between, to reviewing areas of success and failure, to identifying areas of convergence and divergence in terms of the text and the heritage and the history of this modern movement. I'm not talking here about going back to early beginnings necessarily, but I do feel that some of us feel that we can leapfrog into the 21st century by virtue of financial outlay, for example. I was looking yesterday, as some of you may have been looking, at the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. Well, when you consider that that involves an outlay of $1 billion a year, and of course involves an outreach of thousands upon thousands of visitors, my question is, and this is my third area of interest, begin with our commonalities, analyzes our successes and failures, and thirdly, maybe in those successes and failures, do we honestly think that buying science off the shelf, buying Da Vinci off the shelf, is actually empowering, enabling, emboldening us to develop a shared vision? We talk about hope, that humankind today has within its power the capacity to annihilate all forms of life, just as much as it has the means to lead global society to a prosperity unprecedented in history. In this part of the world is a sign for hope, not despair. For we believe that in the end, it is only human impulses which ensure survival and well-being which must prevail. Incidentally, I don't want to prevail too long because I remember I clocked myself at the beginning. I spoke for 16 minutes, but the party started a little longer than it should have done, and the result is that I was slapped on the knuckles by saying, "Oh, you spoke for too long." But anyway, to get back to what I want to say, it is on faith in human nature that we have to build the hope. Everybody was talking here about faith in human nature. The young people, the old people, the interaction, the passion, the energy, the enthusiasm. What are we talking about? Moving from the I, me, to the us. We, if you will. To strengthen that hope, the foremost task for all of us, peoples and nurture, of multilateralism, is to deepen our faith in anthropology, making policy where people matter. I would like to suggest to you possibly that our global social climate is extremely stormy at the present time. The image of the Arabs and of Muslims, even in those four pillars of the Levant, the Arabs, the Persians, the Turks, and the Kurds, is one of contradictions and controversy. But if you are genuine in your recognition of the origins of the rising of the sun from the Levant, I think that we have to disassemble the stereotypes and namatiyya and to convince ourselves of the importance of consensus building, regionally and intra-regionally, because I think globally it's not going to be possible. I really think that with hundreds of countries meeting in hundreds of meetings, with hundreds of pressures and hundreds of agendas, vested interest will always prevail over global good. But I do think it is possible intra-regionally to develop thematically a strengthening of our multilateralism, through focusing on the right to protection. We're not only focusing on the right to food, although I cannot tell that to the people of Yemen today. Look what has happened and what may happen. Let us hope that this disaster can be averted from developing any further. You spoke of undernourishment. I was so deeply impressed when you spoke of Kwalioshkor. I think it was Jacqueline McGlade. Undernourishment, which places the victim under such intolerable stress, such intolerable trauma, that he or she cannot live to contribute as a human being. We speak about sustainability. Sustainability of what? When all is said and done, more is said than done. So what are we sustaining? National flags? Agreements which we do not honor? Or are we interested genuinely in social justice? One of you has spoken to me about the importance, if one of you has spoken, hundreds have spoken about the importance of education. Can we bridge the gap between education and society? Can we speak of social justice and bridging the gap between developmental and so-called security agendas? Security is not just about policing and fighting wars against terror. Security surely is about the social stresses that affect the poorest section of society. And this is why when I speak to the Minister of Planning of Jordan, I say, please remember that whether we like it or not, 87% increase in the population living in Jordan since the 90s. Please remember that when we start thinking on a non-discriminatory basis, only then will we be able to face up to the challenges of political economy. Political economy is not just about Libya or about Yemen or about Syria. It is about a country that hosts, in proportion to its population, the largest refugee population in the world, a country which is number 2 on the thirstiest countries list in the world, Jordan. Too often, the pluralist nature of the world community is not given due consideration. I have bored you, many of you, with this tale I will tell once again because I still can't get over it. A European lady said to me some time ago, may I ask you, it's a very embarrassing question, but are you really an Arab Muslim? I said, yes, but why the embarrassment? She said, because you're normal. So I suggested to her, madam, maybe 1.5 billion of us might carry within it the possibility that a couple of 100 million maybe might have completely lost it, but there's still a few of us who are trying to be normal. There's an unfortunate tendency, I think you would agree, to espouse a misconceived globalism of us and them, us and the others. It's all about the others, isn't it? And if you've arrived, then you can't do anything wrong. I remember when we started our development exercise in the 70s, Colombia was an example of development. Then Colombia passed through very difficult times, and today Colombia is coming back again as an example of development, and so the stories continue. But I would like to suggest that the misconceived globalism is according to which uniform theoretical solutions are preferred over local practical ones. Time and again, I have tried to impress on anyone concerned that developing knowledge is so important. Today we have to teach 1, 2, or 3 syllabuses to refugees. The syllabus of the regime, the syllabus of the opponents of the regime, the syllabus of the country. Why do we not consider regionally a generic syllabus so that we learn about the other while sustaining our own values and our own priorities? I would like to suggest to all of you that people who live in communities within each nation have their own characteristics and possibilities. And we're seeing that more and more and more in Syria, in Iraq, and in the region as a whole. The question is, at this crossroads, can science for peace be a generic cause for working together in the Ahwar, for example, the 5 governorates of Iraq, which wish to revisit the question of salinity? Moreover, not all large-scale problems are best addressed by appeals to the entire international community. Many successful activities, multilateral and regional, have occurred at a human level. And I would like to suggest that when we were able to manage the passing of 1.5 million people through Jordan in 1990-91, with only 1 incident of a death by peritonitis, which could have happened anyway, with 52 nationalities, Jordan showed not only hospitality, but also a carrying capability. Many-sided participation in problem solving. But to arrest the erosion of faith in multilateralism, in the us, in the we, policymakers such as yourselves, the lobby for the creation of constructive policies within international institutions, regional institutions, must evaluate the consequences of their policies in the widest possible sense. It is for that reason, and to assess our deficiencies, that maybe we can embark on a process of discussing our commonalities, reviewing our successes and failures, avoiding wherever possible leapfrogging into the future while leaving the past so far behind that credibility is not conveyed, through emboldening and empowering people and developing social justice for the people who matter most, the people at the broad base of our societies, the youth of our community and our society. This is what I said at the youth conference last week in Sharm el-Sheikh. This is what I'd like to convey to you in the spirit of recognizing that passion and that energy of those youth who deserve our attention. Thank you all for making it possible. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. We have a few items left before this closing ceremony ends, and I just wanted to thank Princess Sumaya, really, for everything that she has done this week, making us feel so welcome, and also her enthusiasm and excitement for the world of science. I hadn't realized that actually she's trained as an art historian, and also I think she should qualify for a scholarship to the Juilliard or RADA for the declaration, which she's going to have to read now, which is a significantly long declaration.
You know, Tim, she's actually an example of an Arab woman in her strength, in her graciousness and generosity, independence. She is the Arab and the Jordanian woman. So please help us welcome Princess Sumaya.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I read the declaration, there was one person who kept me going when a lot of people gave me no support and didn't believe I could do it. And it was you, Baba. I love you. Your Royal Highness, I hope, oh, sorry, I can't see you. Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am simply overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by your support, and particularly by the support and eager participation of the scientists, policymakers, and science communicators from our region who have given a unique and energizing character to our wonderful forum. You have expressed your hunger for engagement with the wider world of knowledge, and you have shown your determination to make our future peaceful and innovative. So let's do it. I would like to thank His Majesty King Abdullah II for his patronage and his support, and for making the opening of World Science Forum 2017 a day of national and regional importance. I believe that what we have started this week is a movement for science in Jordan and in our region, a movement that must and will be driven by the talent and ambition of young people who want to thrive in a peaceful and prosperous land. From the very beginning of our journey in 2013 to hosting World Science Forum 2017, we have emphasized the need to leave a legacy. So much of that legacy will not reveal itself for many years. How many young scientists have been inspired? How much innovative capacity will be unlocked through the network building and inspiring sessions that we all shared this week? But some outcomes can be measured and celebrated today at our closing ceremony. The Charter of Ethics. The Charter of Ethics of Science and Technology in the Arab region was an initiative that drew its first breath at a regional consultation in Beirut a few months ago, a meeting that I was very honored to speak at, with the enormous support of UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science in the Arab States and the Royal Scientific Society of Jordan. A draft of this document was prepared and distributed at World Science Forum 2017, and a special session was dedicated to the Charter. Today, we have a document that frames, supports, protects, and guides science and technology activities and science workers to ensure that science and technology serve society in our region. For the first time, in the Arab world, we are laying down the standards to protect individuals and groups engaged in research and fostering responsibility and credibility in research. The consultation process is expected to continue into 2018 before final presentation to the League of States, Arab States. Congratulations to us all. Perhaps the most exciting and meaningful institutional outcome of World Science Forum 2017 is that it is my very great honor to announce our intention to host biannually from 2020 an Arab Science Forum. To maintain the momentum of science engagement in our region and to be officially a member of the Global Science Forum. The Secretariat for this initiative will begin in Amman, but we will reach out across the Arab world, and our journey has really just begun. Now, in my last few minutes, in my position as chairman of the World Science Forum, and as is the tradition of the World Science Forum, it is my very great pleasure to read the declaration of the 8th World Science Forum. Declaration of the 8th World Science Forum on Science for Peace. Text adopted on the 10th of November 2017, Dead Sea, Jordan. And the preamble is, under the leadership of the Royal Scientific Society of Jordan, the founding organizations of the World Science Forum, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, the International Council for Science, ICSU, and the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, and all invited organizations and fellow scientists, we, the participants of the 8th World Science Forum, held from the 7th to the 10th of November 2017 at the Dead Sea, Jordan, adopt the present declaration. The World Science Forum, an outcome of the 1999 World Conference on Science, is a biannual event that since 2003 has been successfully assembling scientists and decision makers from the world of politics and industry, representatives of civil society and the media to discuss critical global issues and the potential of science to address them holistically. In line with the outcomes of the 1999 World Conference on Science and taking into account the 2011 Budapest Declaration on the New Era of Global Science, the 2013 Rio de Janeiro Declaration on Science for Global Sustainable Development, and the 2015 Budapest Declaration on the Enabling Power of Science, we reaffirm our commitment to the responsible and ethical use of scientific knowledge in addressing the great challenges facing humankind. Science for peace. Our world is empowered by science as never before. Scientific and technological advances are at a point where challenges to our health, environment, and well-being may be defined and addressed in increasingly effective ways. Yet despite these great strides forward, so many communities on our planet remain powerless and deprived of some of the very basic requirements for life, liberty, and hope. So many more of our fellow human beings are at the mercy of fear, insecurity, and instability in their lives and livelihoods. Additionally, the grave threats posed by climate and ocean change, pollution, and the inefficient management of natural resources and waste continue to threaten our environmental, social, and political stability at local, regional, and global levels. It is in this context that World Science Forum 2017 has assessed the role of science in building a future that promises greater equality, security, and opportunity for all, and in which science plays an increasingly prominent role as an enabler of fair and sustainable development. Peace is far more than the absence of conflict. It implies an absence of fear and the full realization of a whole and healthy life. It encompasses an equal access to the resources and potential of our planet. Science for peace signifies a call for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals and for the promise of hope and opportunity in the lives of all people in a world where borders must matter little as we struggle to build a better and inevitably shared future. Science for peace recognizes the global nature of the challenges facing all humankind and underlines our global responsibility to tackle them through robust science and evidence-informed policy. This must encompass energy, food, water, and climate change, the alleviation of poverty and inequality, greater cultural and economic understanding between peoples, and the potential for science and research to create wealth and to provide opportunity within societies. We are convinced that science and the ethical application of evidence-informed methods offer essential tools to address challenges that leaders and politicians are confronted by at national and regional levels, and we are committed to finding in science the language that connects people across borders, belief systems, and social and cultural barriers. We believe that we must fight for a voice in a world where culture is so often reduced to untruths relating to cultural identity. Science for peace is a banner for all humanity and a call to reject division, short-term and reactionary planning, and the growing gap between rich and poor. Inquiry-based science education is essential for forming critical thinking to build and sustain peaceful, knowledge-based societies. Lasting peace may only be achieved in our world when scientific knowledge is more equitably produced and shared, when science and evidence-based thinking are supported and empowered in all societies, when diversity is cherished as a vital factor in science and research, and when the universal right to science is promoted and enshrined in regional and global fora. It is in this context that we call for the following. The equitable and sustainable management of natural resources is essential to avoid conflicts and to promote peaceful development. The global demand for food, water, and energy has reached unprecedented and unsustainable levels as a result of a growing global population, increased consumption, inefficient resource management, and the effects of climate change. Competition for basic resources is a key driver of inequality, uncertainty, instability, and conflict. Future global security and prosperity for all will depend on how we respond to pressures on natural resources and how these resources are managed, distributed, and thank you, distributed. Thank you, Barbara.
I'm going to suggest, but this stubborn lady behind me will probably not accept, but if she does, do we have a volunteer who can come up and read the rest of this declaration with her? Any volunteers? Well, you know them better than I do, so you get one.
Thank you very much. You know what I'm going to do, President Lovash, with your permission? I know it is the protocol to read the whole thing, but I think I'm just going to read if the steering committee permits me. If the steering committee permits me to just read the titles. Number one, the equitable and sustainable management of natural resources is essential and to avoid conflicts and to promote peaceful development. Number two, the preservation of scientific capacities threatened by global migration trends is key to peace, sustainable development, resilience, and recovery. And number three, diversity is a key enabler of excellence in science, technology, and innovation, and is essential to optimize its relevance and impact. Number four, we commit to the fulfillment of the universal right to science. And number five, we support the launch of a regional science forum for the Arab world. Thank you very much. I'm almost done, and my voice hopefully will hold out. I'm not going to go through a list of thank yous, but there is one group that I have not thanked in particular right from day one, and that group is the group of 3,000 participants who have taken part in everything we have done over the last 4 days. Without you, this conference could never have happened. So thank you to all the participants. And focusing on the number 3, there are another 3 that I have to single out. Gergely Boom, wherever you are. Gergely, stand up. Aidan Gilligan. And Connor de Leon. Without the 3 of you, I don't think any of us would be here in your different capacities, so thank you for your sterling work. And now, it gives me great pleasure to invite the President of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, President Laszlo Lovash, to officially receive the handover from Jordan to Budapest for the World Science Forum 2019. Thank you very much.
Your Royal Highnesses, Commissioner Moedas, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. After 4 days full of inspiring debates, condensed into 50 sessions, and many more formal and informal discussions, and wonderful social events, there is no doubt that the World Science Forum of 2017 has been a great success. The word forum means a meeting point. Well, the forum means a meeting point for the community, a place where its members can connect, share, and discuss their ideas. It always has to reflect the needs and interests of its own community. I think the World Science Forum of 2017 has fulfilled this mission to a great degree, while keeping also the interest of the global scientific community high on the agenda. It will be remembered as a historic event, an event that has not only showcased the difficulties scientists have to face in this region, but also the great history and impressive present achievements of science in Jordan and in the Middle East. I also have to say that this year's edition of the conference has clearly made an impact on the World Science Forum series itself. It has strengthened our mission to bring together scientists and policymakers from all regions. And it has also raised the bar for all of us as organizers and participants in terms of attendance and professional delivery. For this reason, let me thank once again for the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan and King Abdullah for hosting us, and for his Royal Highness Prince Hassan for his vision to pursue this peace, which has been in the heart of the design of the program of this forum. And most importantly, for Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya, for her genuine dedication and commitment that made this event a reality for all of us. Let me also congratulate the delivery team of the Royal Scientific Society and all local organizers. Without their professional work, we could not have enjoyed such a wonderful experience. I believe that this will always stay in the memory of all of us, this event. And I have to tell you that I was deeply, deeply impressed by all those people among you, probably you are here, many of them, who came to us, to me, and they expressed how important for them this event was. And they came from all over the world, from all parts of the world, and I'm really deeply moved, and I'm, of course, terribly happy that this happened, and somehow this connection between science and science in, say, the Western world and science in other parts of the world has finally been firmly established. This is now one world, one science, and that's the way we have to think about it. Many of you have asked me about the next World Science Forum. It will be about 2 years from now in Budapest, Hungary. We do not have a final title yet, but I can tell you for sure, before the forum embarks again to another exciting region of the world 4 years from now on, it will be hosted again in Budapest by the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, and it will be a special event because it will be the 20th anniversary of this series. I think we will try to make it a memorable anniversary. I think this celebration will be a great opportunity to focus on some of the issues that have been central in the life of the global scientific community throughout these years and have become even more relevant for all of us nowadays. I hope that we will be able to collect many ideas and requests from the scientific community and from the community of science, politicians. What are these issues? I have already heard many here by chatting with many of you on the corridors. For example, finding the right balance between academic freedom and the ethical and social responsibility of scientists. Finding models for cooperation between social and natural sciences. We should talk about the publication crisis, which is on us and which we have to address. We have to talk about the issue of intellectual property rights, in particular in the case of research financed from public resources. We have to discuss the bridges between top-down and bottom-up sciences, and so on. The fact that these problems come up, that we face so many interesting issues, I think is a sign that science is developing, that science is moving, and therefore we are facing new situations and new problems, which we have to answer, which we have to find answers to in order to make sure that science, for all those noble goals that have been formulated here at this forum, so many ways and in so many directions, for all those noble goals, we can find answers. We can help solving them. The final theme and program of the next World Science Forum will be announced around this time next year. Let me take this opportunity to invite all of you to come to Budapest in 2019 and join us for many exciting conversations, just like the ones we have been able to enjoy here under the theme Science for Peace. And let me join Princess Sumaya in thanking all of you for coming here. Without participants, without this really great group of participants, this science forum would have been meaningless. This way, however, it will be memorable forever. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to bring to the stage a man who has worked tirelessly on the World Science Forum 2017. Connor de Leon, Head of Programming and Delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, Hussein Salman.
أجيال حتعيش على حلمنا واللي نقول اليوم محسوب على عمرنا. أجيال ورا أجيال حتعيش على حلمنا واللي نقول اليوم محسوب على عمرنا. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم إنما يفضل شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم إنما يفضل شعاع النور. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. حتعيش على حلمنا واللي نقول اليوم محسوب على عمرنا. أجيال ورا أجيال حتعيش على حلمنا واللي نقول اليوم محسوب على عمرنا. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم إنما يفضل شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم إنما يفضل شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا حضن ضمنا كلنا كلنا 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 كمان ده حلمنا طول عمرنا حضن ضمنا كلنا كلنا ده حلمنا حضن ضمنا كلنا كلنا احنا واحد. شكرا.
لأننا نؤمن في مؤسسة عبد الحميد شومان بأهمية الابتكار والإبداع في تلبية احتياجاتنا وإيجاد حلول عملية للتحديات التي تواجهها مجتمعاتنا، ارتأت المؤسسة إطلاق جائزة عبد الحميد شومان للابتكار بشقيها العلمي والمجتمعي، والتي تركز على الحقول التالية: التكنولوجيا الخضراء والاستدامة البيئية، الأمن الغذائي والتكنولوجيا الزراعية، الرعاية الصحية والتكنولوجيا الطبية، سوق العمل وحلول الإنتاجية الاقتصادية، وحلول تعلمية. وسيكون باب التقدم للجائزة مفتوحاً اعتباراً من العام 2018 وبموازنة تصل لغاية $1,000,000 دينار أردني.
When troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders.